welcome to Psyched with Rena. Today's video is going to be talking about the 8 challenges that Asian Americans face, mostly related to family of origin. But let me back it up, introduce myself. My name is Rena Chinn. I was raised in New York and California, but currently work as a psychotherapist in Seattle. And during COVID, I'll say that I receive maybe half a dozen or more requests for clients every week. And I wanted to do something that would help young Asian Americans cope in this difficult season. So I'll be providing tips, tools, ideas for you to work with your own mental health in this season. I hope it's helpful to you, and if you'd like to hear more, please click subscribe, and let's get started. The first problem I see working with Asian Americans is that often we're told that our family is everything. That means that our lives, every piece of it, reflects on the family. And the reason this can be a problem is that people grow up having trouble setting boundaries. How are they going to distinguish themselves from their family? If they aren't able to do this, they often end up resentful and having trouble stepping away from unhealthy relationships. It's really tough when your parents see every decision you make as a reflection on the family and them. I have one client, Shilpa. She ended up disowned by her parents for a couple of years while she finished off the University of Washington. Instead of completing her degree, her parents would have preferred her to come home and marry an Indian boy that they'd chosen for her. And she's still in her 20s. This isn't very long ago. But even with smaller decisions, there's always the question of how much to negotiate with your parents. What is their decision and what is your decision? And many young adults, their parents chose the instrument they play, the hobbies they have, maybe even wanting to approve of the purchases you make. This brings up so much anxiety in young Asian Americans to figure out how to claim what is their own decision and how to respect and honor their parents in the midst of it. That's why the video series right after this is going to cover coping with anxiety, knowing when we're triggered, figuring out how to calm our bodies, and how to move forward in decision making. A second issue I'm seeing is that of perfectionism, the sense that we are a little bit of imposters and never quite good enough. This could come from a critical parent and later a critical inner voice. And the twin sister to perfectionism is comparison. So we'll be talking about how comparison prevents us from genuinely rejoicing with other people when they do well and having healthy relationships with peers. One example is my client Kim. Growing up, her mother always told her that she had to be prettier and skinnier than her best friend. What does that do to erode relationships over time? It led to such perfectionism in my client that she developed disordered eating, and we needed to work through a lot of things about her body image and just feeling comfortable in her own skin. So we will be covering these future topics, eating disorders and perfectionism, in coming weeks. So please click like and subscribe if you want to hear more. The third problem that I often see is that people have trouble because families prioritize appearances. What this means is we end up focusing on people-pleasing behaviors. We have trouble making our own choices and end up making choices in our finances, in our health, in our appearances that compromise who we are. This is especially true with struggles with Asian Americans who have different sexual orientations or gender identities, and exploring the value of being different and looking different. Number 4, often our parents pick security. They pick stability. They may even have been immigrants and worked their way up from nothing. That's to be commended, but for us, it may leave young Asian Americans feeling like they are risk averse. They're unwilling to, or afraid to try new things. It could limit our career, our dating, And it can also feed into the perfectionism that we're unable to try something new unless we feel like we could do it right the first time. And how often is that? Number 5, with our family of origin, you may find that you are often asked, questioned, interrogated on your choices, which may differ from your families. What does this do to the young Asian American? Often, this may lead them to feel like they don't know how to make a decision, that they can't think well. They may lack confidence in their own decision making. And on the other hand, it can also lead to hiding, that we don't want to mention different topics, we don't want to mention different details of our lives to avoid any type of conflict. Number 6, many of us have been praised for upholding cultural norms and expectations. What does that do? That makes us possibly just try to perform for the love and attention that we would naturally deserve as human beings. It's a little bit of a distortion, and it keeps us hiding our authentic self. The twin sister to that is guilt, number 7, where we often would feel guilty for doing things that might be perceived as disobeying our parents. This can force us into hiding. It can also make us very conflict averse in our general lives, and a little bit superstitious that if there's any type of disagreement in future relationships, we get fearful that things will not work out, and we might try to avoid conflict at all costs. The last one is number 8. I wonder how many of you came from families which are fairly isolated, which are very individualistic in that they don't want to show anybody else their needs. Now, this could be because you've had immigrant parents who've had to make it on their own, figure out language and jobs and the whole societal structure here. And so they have naturally been very isolated. But somehow that characteristic may be passed on, that it keeps us being afraid of looking vulnerable and asking for help. In fact, I wonder how many of you are not actually seeking therapy in an office because you'd rather watch a video and not look silly. I've seen many clients who struggle with risk aversion. What it does is sometimes it leaves them in jobs they don't enjoy for long periods of time, or it could leave them lonely, hoping for a dating relationship and not wanting to take the initiative. If these are struggles you identify with, please comment below on ways that you would like to grow and develop. These video series are not a substitute for psychotherapy, which is individual growth with someone who is attuned to you. However, I do hope it will give you some helpful tips. If you resonated with any of these points I've mentioned, I'd love it if you would subscribe and press like. I would also like to hear what topics would you like me to delve into. The next series is going to be about anxiety, how it shows up in our body, what to do when you're triggered, and how to manage some of that anxiety you may feel, whether it's social or otherwise. So tune in to Psyched with Rena, and I'll hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.